Okay, so we're getting to the end of the Chris Bray book. Actually, we ended the Chris Bray book a while ago, and I sort of added a few things on cubes, cube decisions, and we're now talking about match game cube decisions. And so this session will be on the recubes, and then we'll have a session on a summary of the match game cube decisions, where we'll go over the things that I've already talked about and try to. The difficulty is sorting them into where you are in the game. So, for instance, I've talked about non-gammonish positions, and they have one set of considerations. Usually, it's tied to take points, and gammon values to a certain extent, and then non-gammon values for non-gammonish. But then recently we've been talking about gammonish positions, and how to adjust your cube decisions based on that, and those get very tricky. So today we're going to talk about recubes. We'll have a review, and then we're going to pick up with Michi's back checker strategy book. So we'll get back to checker play and after these two sessions. So talking about recubes now, and I have to say this is a particularly difficult topic. And again, we're talking about recubes in gammonish situations. And one of the reasons it's difficult is that we're not typically you can have a reference position or something like that to draw on. And we've looked at a few of those, but in gammonish positions, you typically don't have that to draw on, because it's usually gotten to some point that things have gotten far into the game, and there's no particular necessarily pattern or common experience. So, for instance, the position, race, and threat system, that's effective, but those usually come up early in the game or early in the middle game, and then someone cubes, and but you don't get a real chance to use that system on the recube, because things have gone far beyond that. So and so I would say this is one of the more difficult topics. There's a chart here which makes it look very simple, except that it's not. But so and all it says is and this is a question about the redouble and non-gammonish positions. We're going to look at take points. So the non-gammonish positions are races, midpoint holding games, things like the late hit after one player is born off checkers. Those are the typical situations which are not gammonish that we've already looked at, and we're looking pretty much take points for those. If you're in a gammonish position, there are two simple rules which defy easy. Well, actually, the first one is fairly simple, which is if you're the leader and your opponent has doubled you, the question is, when do you redouble? And the simplest answer is, well, never. Wait till it's not a gammonish position anymore, and then redouble. Now it's not quite that simple. There's if you're a leader by one game and it's an 11-point match, that's not really a leader so much. But if you're up 2 or 3 games, it doesn't take a whole lot before it's really just it's often a huge blunder to redouble in those positions, and and so they're hard to find examples that can resonate with people. And what happens usually is that you become it's a no double, and then at some point it becomes too good to double, and so there's never a sweet spot where you want to double. And if it does happen, it's sort of an inexplicable point, which you'll see it, you'll show up as an error when you're reading your matches, but there was no way that you could possibly catch it as you were going along. So the simplest rule is, if you're the leader and you have something more than like a 1-point lead in a long match, then you don't redouble. until you get into a non-gammonish race or something like that. Now, the more difficult rule is when you're the trailer, and if you're behind and your opponent has doubled you, if he knew what he was doing, he probably should have had a fairly sizable advantage before he doubled. And so if you're the trailer and you've been doubled, now you can redouble to 4, which is something that you want to take advantage of if you want to get back into the match if you're behind. And so the simplest rule I have, and it's really not the best rule, is when you have the advantage, then you redouble. When I say that it's not the best rule, is because there are oftentimes you'll find, and we'll look at some today, where you redouble even when you don't have the advantage sometimes, or you're supposed to. And I don't, and I will invariably get those wrong because I don't know, what type of advantage you have to have, even if you'll see where your chances of winning are less than 50%, and you're still supposed to redouble. So those are very tricky to do, and I don't have a simple answer to those. So let's get started in a few examples here. And so here, this was just actually a position from a game that I played earlier this week, and I thought it was a good example. But so let's look at this. Black doubled. Black had an early lead and doubled, but he's gotten hit. He's now on the bar, and what do we think of this? And let's not call it a match, a money game. Any idea what this would be? I guess.
I'd say no double. I don't think Black's going to drop for a while.
Okay. Yeah, this is
such a long way to go.
Yeah, well, this is a tricky position, but clearly White has the advantage here. Black does have the anchor, but Black is on the bar. All White has to do is escape, or Yellow has to escape, and it's a pretty good row from there. Even if Black anchors, he's got a back game, which is not a well-timed back game. So there's a lot of gammons here. So the actual answer to this is a redouble and a pass.
Completely wrong.
Yes. Which that's when you get into redoubles, you get into situations like this. This is not obvious to me. I think I may have redoubled around this time, but it's these aren't easy to figure out. You can't apply a simple Pratt or any other system that I know of that will analytic system that you can apply to get the right answer here. Okay, so but now that we know that for money it's a redouble and a pass. Let's look at if a match score. So if Yellow is behind in the match, it should be clear that if this was a redouble, if this was a redouble and a pass before, that this is going to be a redouble and a pass now. In fact, actually, here we get into the situation where it's too good to redouble, but let's not worry about that. The more interesting situation is suppose that Yellow is ahead. Now, remember, it was a redouble and a pass. And this, well, let's give it 3 pips ahead. So the rule that I have is that never redouble in a gammonish position. So here, but with the double and a pass, so this is a really strong double. Here, it's no redouble. Okay. And look at, even though this is 75-25 to win, 20% gammons, it's no redouble. And look at the size of the error. This is not just any old blunder. This is a 0.42 blunder. This is
Is
this
that
is
because
very
it's
bad.
coming straight back to 8?
I'm sorry, Ray, go ahead. Say it again.
Is that if yellow redoubles here, black's going to send it back to 8 straight away, isn't he? Is that the
Yes,
reason?
well, that's part of it. But even let's look at where that he may not do that. And that's that's part of why it's such a large blunder in that case, because he's going to send it back. But even here, where it's this is almost a trivial lead. 3 points in 11-point match. It's no redouble. And you have to get down to something even trivial for it to be a redouble. And it's still a take here, even though it was a big pass for money. At 11-0, this is probably a pass. Yeah, 1 point lead is just not enough for that. Okay, let's look at another example. Oops. What do I want to show there? So here, yeah, this is a money game. What do we think this is in terms of is this a double take? Just to get a sense of where we are with this.
Well, I don't think I'd be doubling. We've got so much work to do.
Yeah.
I'd be doubling personally.
Yeah. Well, this, yeah. So this is a tough position. It is a double, big double, but a big take. And you're right. There's a lot of work to do, but if black comes in, black's position is going to fall apart pretty soon.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. So now let's look at match play. And again, so white here has a trivial lead. And if it's, well, actually, we didn't look at redoubles, but typically redoubles are the same or close in money games. So let's look at match play. And if it's a mid-level redouble and take for money game, what do we think it is at this score? 1 point lead for white, 11-point match.
I guess what you're saying is it's not a double because it's gammonish and you're in the lead. Is what you'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. Generally, but the tricky part here is this a lead worthy of worrying about that?
Right.
It's only a 1 point lead. So generally it's not. Well, actually in this case. Yeah, even this one, I would probably not worry about the 1 point lead in doing that, but in this case it happens to apply here. Part of the reason why this is tricky is even this 1 point lead in an 11-point match shifts you from a solid double, solid take to a no redouble. And so obviously if you score, the differential increases, it becomes even a bigger redouble.
I mean a bigger no redouble.
I'm sorry, yes, a bigger error to redouble.
Right.
Yeah, bigger no redouble. Thanks.
Right.
It's tricky. Now, if we're ahead, I'm sorry, if we're behind, then this is, obviously this is a redouble. And the question then is, if you're black, at what point does this become a pass? And it's not very high. Black's up by 2, and now this is a pass. And if you look at it, it's 64-33. Not that lopsided in terms of wins. It's the gammons that are going to pressure it, because if you take a 4 cube and get gammoned, that's pretty nasty.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so now, let's just look at this as a money game first. You're white. Now what do? You're on the bar against a 4-point board.
And white is on roll?
White is on roll, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't double.
Yeah, I think you'd be crazy to double this. And you're 43% to win. And so it's no redouble, it's actually a beaver for money.
Yeah.
Because you're behind in you don't have an advantage here. Let's switch to a match game score. And this also was taken from a match I was playing. Black's up by 4-0. Well, it turns out that this is a redouble and a take.
That's crazy. With a 43% chance of winning, it's a redouble.
That's right. 43% to redouble, and and your gammons aren't that great, 7%. So why is that? Well, this is why I say this is very difficult to see over the board and to evaluate this. I mean, I certainly missed this one, but it has to do with the fact that Black already has gammons, and if you redouble, his gammons are worthless because if he wins, he wins the match. So, but he may win the match anyway, just based on gammons. So it's kind of like, well, you might as well double, because if you get gammoned, if things go bad and you get gammoned, you lose anyway. But that's kind of the logic. How you get to that logic from here, I can't really tell you.
But Gary, sorry to interrupt you, but does this also have anything to do with sensitivities at certain scores? I mean, here you have 3 away, 7 away. I mean, is there some sort of special sensitivity to that?
Yes, it has to do with that too, because you recube, but now you're playing for 4 again. And again, if Black wins, well, he gets 3. So he's not getting the full value of his recube, which should make him more reluctant to take it. Whereas as the recuber, you're getting the full 4, full 4. So but again, there's no easy calculation that I can see. But other than to be aware of that, if you're redoubling past your opponent's match score, then you probably should be looking to redouble sooner, and that probably explains why you can be even behind. You're not even ahead in the match. You're not even favored in this game to win, and yet it's still a cube. Let's look at some later variations on this. Actually, this looks the same. Sorry, this one. Oh, okay. This is, this is a, so this is later on. This is the same game, but later on. And I was playing white here, never redoubled, making a few errors along the way for not doing that. But here, now this is a trickier one, or that is not a trickier one. This is, I think, easier to understand, because we can do, well, there's certain things that are clear here. So, what's clear? What's our chances of winning this match now? This game, not this match, this game now.
Well, it's over 50%.
Yeah, I'm basically, if we hit, we can assume that we're going to win.
Yeah.
And if we hit both, which is not terribly unlikely, we could win a gammon. So the winning here is well, if you've got 2 double shot, basically you've got at least 20 rolls that hit, and that's actually, I guess, all that is here. 2-1 would hit twice, but that's the only one, the other one that we didn't count. So if you're Black, do you take this?
Wow. Well, yeah, take it because because it's a 1/3 or 40% chance you're not going to get hit, so you got to take. Because you do it if it's over 25%, right? And it's way over 25%.
It's,
Oh,
well,
so-
okay, but, yeah, now here's the rub, though.
Yeah, but black's 4 ahead. Yeah, I see. Because of the match score, it might be different, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I would follow your rule. When you're up 4, never redouble.
yeah, okay, but here we're
You
we're
take it,
down
not
4
re-
here.
Yeah, you're talking about a take, not a double.
Oh, take, sorry.
We're talking about the take, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, in this one, this is a big pass.
Yeah.
And if you see, look at it, it's, 55-45 to win.
Right.
Again, that's basically hitting. And I guess if you miss, you might get a second shot at one of these checkers. So that's why it's a little bit higher than 55. Although I guess 20 out of 36 rolls, that may be 55 actually. Or that, yeah, well, that is about 55%. So that's pretty much it. But it's also the 17 or 16% gammons that give white the match for that. And then let's look at some other scores. If white's ahead, well, let's think through this one. What would you do? You've got, we've just seen that you have 55% chance to win here. So you double this when you're up 1.
Um,
You double, it's only 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0.
Yes, you double.
I would double.
Okay.
it must be close because you're not getting full value for your gammons, for the relatively few gammons.
Well, yeah, you're not, yeah, the gammons, if you double and win, you'll get 8, you'll win the match.
Yeah.
But, you got 8. You got 8 and you only need 6. So you're not getting full value there.
Yeah, it's wasted. Yeah. And maybe you don't.
So, in this case, it's a no redouble fairly. It's not a blunder not to redouble here, but and here the advantage is not that great because basically if you miss,
You're doubled out.
black is going to redouble you out and you lost 4. And it's basically 50, a little bit better than 50-50. But it's still, this is still close. If you go a little bit farther up, this becomes a big blunder to redouble.
Mhm.
Similar with here, this now you're playing for the match. Huge double, huge blunder to redouble. Okay, so that's about all I have to say on that.
But Gary, sorry to interrupt you again. But don't these principles apply to some extent just when you're doubling as opposed to redoubling? I mean, you're focusing on redoubling, but isn't a lot of what you're talking about kind of pertain to doubling also?
Yes, but for the redouble, things are magnified. Because again, you can't get the full value necessarily of your gammons. You can't necessarily get the full value of the cube. So I mean, let's take a look at this one. So here, what you're giving up here. So here you're. I'm not sure that I would think to double this. I might, but and it's a huge double and a huge take here.
Yeah.
But it's still 55-44. But so what's going to happen is white could double this, and if it's a 1 roll type of situation. If he hits, he's going to get to 2 points and maybe 4, and if he misses, he's going to lose 2. And that's and then being it's now 3-0. Going down 3-2 is not the end of the world. Not like giving up your 3-point lead to be up 3-2 is not the end of the world. Whereas if you double here and gammon, you won the match. So it's kind of a risk reward trade-off. And again, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because I don't have any easy answers to how you do these things. It seems like you have to spend a lot of time looking at these situations and making a judgment. And as I said, they're all pretty unique. It's hard to practice something that is very different every situation, every time that it comes up.
But Gary, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, and maybe other people feel this way too, but if I look at a big flaw in myself regarding doubling is that I often fail to consider the gammon potential situation. And I'm looking at it, gee, it's 70-30 or 20-80 or whatever it is. And like I'm getting lost because I'm looking at that number and I'm failing to consider the gammon part of the equation,
Yeah, that's true. And gammons are hard to measure. It's hard to get a sense of what the gammons are. Now here, this is probably a little bit easier because you can see if you hit both checkers and you're likely to close black out with 2 on the bar, and your gammons from that this is kind of a reference position to be aware of, is gammons from that are 50%. And if you have 1 on the bar, I think it's more like 15% for gammons. It's not even that. So that second checker, which is why if you have the chance, you're going to fight for that second checker to get that second checker up, because it's a huge chance. So I mean that's something to keep in mind too. 2 checkers on the bar.
50%.
Big, you have big gammon chances. Let's just look if you have a closed board. That's going to be different. And now, well, still, your wins are slightly less and your gammons are slightly less because if you get hit, you have a good, there's a good chance you'll lose the game. But 2 checkers on the bar is huge for gammons. So that type of situation, that's about all you have to go on. Is if your opponent has a bunch of checkers that are blots lying around, and you have a chance to pick him up, and he may dance, then that's a highly gammonous position. Okay, so that's all I had to say on that. I can't give you a lot of analytical tools to work with, other than to be aware that the no redoubling when you're ahead is a good thing to remember, and redouble a whole lot sooner if you're behind than you ordinarily would. But beyond that, it's hard to know. Now, so next time we're going to go over. We'll review some things, but I was watching this match, Mochi versus Sander, recently. And we came across a situation in the first game, which is something that we covered here. So it's kind of part of a review. I thought I would go over it and we can look at what they did. And keep in mind, Mochi obviously is the #1 player, although he lost to Sander here in this tournament. And Sander is also an exceptional player. I don't know where exactly he ranks, but he's up in the upper stratosphere of players. So here we have a situation where Mochi was bearing in, and he got a late hit and got put on the bar. And Sander's here trying to decide whether to double or not, or redouble. Mochi had doubles and the cube's over here. And so let's just look at some of the commentary they're talking about. Good commentary by who was this? Mark Olson and Justin, I think.
Here we go.
Okay, so here. Emoji has 6 checkers off. Sander has 1 checker off. Now, this was, we looked at this position a little while ago. I call it the rule of 4, even though that's not necessarily the best name for it. But what do we think? Is this a redouble here?
According
Or
to,
Sander?
according to your rule, it's not. It has to be a separation of. I think I've been taught kind of 5, but I guess 5 or 4.
Yes, well, it's 5 if you have, if Sander has this checker on the 4 point, that's the repper's position, and it's 5
Mhm.
For that. Here, he's not quite there. He's got, not, that's slightly different. He's got 1 off, but and Mochi has 6 off, so there's still a difference of 5. But that's not the key thing here. I mean, that's part of it. That would, all that means is that we're close here. But what's the big difference here that is different from our reference position?
Well, White's got a gap on the 2 points. It's
That's right. When we typically look at, let me pull it up. Oh, I don't have it. You know, typically, when we're looking at reference positions here for this type of situation, we're talking, we have something like this. Oops.
yeah.
Where White is not going to miss anything coming off, and it's a super speed board. So, and in this case, let's see, this is a no double retake, a no double, close, because we got a difference of 5, and that's a little bit short. You know, I call it the rule of 4 because it should be 4 if you had 4 off. Let's put this one here, I'd say, and I think now this is this is now a close redouble. I would have doubled there, and not too far off. But that's not what he has. He's got this, which means that there's a blot there. But this makes this a redouble.
Swings it, yeah.
This says a pass. I don't think that's right. Here, actually, they did this. Oh, it is a pass. Yeah. So yeah. So this is a redouble and a pass. And let's see what happens.
Yes, is that now? Perfect. Okay, he misses the YouTube.
Yeah, and so Sander missed that. So he's the top, you know, one of the top players in the world, and he missed that. And this is, you know, fairly simple. I mean, the commentators caught it, and it's if you look at Sander's, well, we'll look at what they did at the end, but this is anyway. That was an error for him to miss that.
Because usually you want to be 4 checkers, that's off. He was survive. But the thing is, he had perfect spell change. So it's kind of like having 4 checkers. That's
Well, also White doesn't have everything jammed on the 8th, like in a lot of references.
Yes.
And so
yes.
there's a gap on the 2 and inefficiencies there. And Donna Megan talks about this in his lesson.
This is not good. Here you
Yeah. So here's another one. This was another redouble. So this is this actually a blunder, and he misses this. So again, he's made 2 errors where we should have gotten it.
This is just not studying reference positions.
Does Mochi want a thing? Here we go.
Would be Sandy would be giving what's your top decision.
He needs to come to your fortnightly
Yes, I'll invite both of them next time, and we'll go over these positions so they don't get them wrong.
He has to double.
Only 2 big numbers.
Yeah, even if we're like a 14.
Yeah.
He's half the dollar percent. How could this not be?
How many men does he have off? Doesn't
Three
mean it's a
checkers
checker
off.
trend.
He has to know if we instruct the players or fast use the checker trade so we can see how many men you have. So we have to count it out ourselves and say there's 3 checkers. this is a clear redouble, and Mochi, as you mentioned, Justin, that it has a gap on the speed and doesn't have all these checkers, ace and deuce. So you have to double this thing.
Mochi's trying to not look at him, because I can tell what he might be doing. Just
Okay.
keep that, very good,
Very good, very good. And he's giving Mochi a tough decision. This is a tough one for Mochi.
The thing is, when he takes a long time like that, you might think Sander was not sure he did it with the cube.
But that should lead him towards let's say excitement. Oh yeah, you're right. And that's confuses him further, which is the
Not even knocked off his cube. Like a timing tell, like playing poker.
Justin did. Wow, he was confused. Yes.
So Mochi takes that. So he's the top player in the world. He just made a huge blunder, 0.129. For something that, anyone who took, this course probably should have gotten right on that one. Now just to show, so Sander made 2 errors here. One was a blunder. Mochi made 1 blunder here. If we go to the end of the match to see how they did, minute 14. This was the match. So it's kind of obscured there. Mochi played his match at 1.99, I think that is. And he made 1 blunder. And we just saw it, the 0.129. I'll never do that. Sander played his at 3.37. And we just saw that he made a blunder and an error on that position. So I'm not sure what that means. Is that other than these are the two of the top players in the world, and they can make errors on really a position that wasn't that difficult. I mean, if you go through the match, they made a lot of decisions on very difficult positions that I'm sure I would have gotten wrong. I'm sure I would play around the 5 or something like that for these guys. And they got those right. But a fairly simple position. They both made blunders on. And for Mochi, it was his only blunder the whole match. I mean, 1.86 he played, which is a phenomenal rate. But he missed one that was kind of easy. Anyway, I found that interesting. Hopefully you did too. Okay, so that is that. Let me turn this off.